A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Welcome to another edition of Bearing Arms, Cam and Company. My name is Cam Edwards. I am so glad you're with us on the program today. We're going to be talking with Charlie Cook from Riding Shotgun with Charlie. He hopped in his car and headed down to Boston Common, joined by hundreds of other gun owners on Wednesday as they were rallying in opposition to HD 4420, it's not just carry killer legislation. It is Second Amendment killing legislation in Massachusetts. This is the bill that Democrats were trying to ram through before the August recess. The opposition from gun owners and law enforcement across the state sort of derailed that effort to swiftly send this bill to Governor Maura Healey's desk, but they are back at it behind closed doors trying to retool this particular piece of gun control legislation. Meanwhile, the state Senate working on an omnibus gun control package of their own. And yesterday, the Gun Owners Action League rallied gun owners in Boston. Bring Bruen to Boston. That was the name of the rally, and Charlie Cook was there. We'll talk about it with him here in just a moment. Right now, though, Biden's America, it is crushing us. You've got companies laying off tens of thousands of workers, one after the other. Americans working two jobs just to get by. Inflation pushing hardworking families to the brink. Just look at the price of lunch meat next time you go to the grocery store. And a digital dollar could be coming down the pipeline to completely destroy our way of life. The truth is, you need a plan. You know it, and I know it. And that is why you should call Goldco. So you can diversify your savings and investments with gold and silver before things get worse. They're a six-time Inc. 5000 winner, 2022 Company of the Year, with thousands of five-star reviews. And they've helped people like you and me place over $1 billion in gold and silver. They're offering up to $10,000 in free silver while supplies last. And if you call them today, qualified callers will get a free Ronald Reagan half-ounce silver coin. So don't wait. Call Goldco at 855-412-3806 today. That's 855-412-3806. And now let's talk about that Bring Bruen to Boston rally with Charlie Cook from Riding Shotgun with Charlie, who, yes, of course, he joins us from behind the wheel. Take a look and a listen. Charlie, thanks so much for coming on the show, man. It's great to see you behind the wheel as usual.
It's here at the home office, right?
That's right. I'm curious, do you say tally ho every time you start your car, or is that just
That's just when I'm shotgunning with Petrolino?
Okay, all right, good to know. Well, you weren't shotgunning with our buddy John yesterday. You were amongst hundreds of modern day Minutemen and women at the Boston Common, warning that the gun controllers are coming, right? Tell me about this rally to bring Bruen to Boston.
So it was a great event put on by the Gun Owners Action League. They've been pushing it for probably 3 weeks. I've seen so many things on social media about it, but it was the opportunity to get together, to get everybody in the Boston Common to rally. And then after they had some rallying and some speeches, a lot of people went over to the State House to talk to their representatives about the nonsense of HD 4420.
Yeah, and I know that, you went to a couple of these listening sessions that were held in advance of 4420. Right. And this was billed as, we're updating our gun laws. We got to comply with Bruen. The chief sponsor of 4420, Michael Day, was a guy who's not been awful to gun owners in the past. He's been somebody that I think, Gold could work with on some things. But holy moly, what emerged from that listening tour. I mean, this was 140 pages of we're going to take away your right to keep and bear arms.
Yeah, his objective was to make the licensing process and make the gun laws easier. And he really did that by saying, no, you can't have any, and you can't take them anywhere. So forget it.
Yeah. And since then, obviously, as you well know, living in Massachusetts, the opposition from gun owners, and then you had law enforcement come out. You had a couple of police chiefs by name. I think you had the Police Chiefs Association come out and say, basically, they said, this is garbage. Here, and I think it was the Chiefs Association actually had a pretty lengthy examination of all of the problems in 4420. So they were trying to get this passed before they went on August recess. The opposition, I think, overwhelmed them. They end up pulling this bill. Okay, we're gonna tweak it. The Senate, meanwhile, says, well, we're working on our own package. So now everything's sort of up in the air, right? You don't really know what it is that the anti-gunners are trying to do behind closed doors.
Yeah, we absolutely don't. There's nothing more on 4420 that we've heard about. We know that the Senate's working on something, but we don't know what that something is. It could be I guess my biggest fear is that they're going to give the police the opportunity to carry off duty. and then the police will be like, well, you know what, it's not so bad, and then the police will support it, and then they'll be like, hey, the police are supporting this, let's go through with it. So that's really what my biggest concern about it is.
And I think that's a legit concern. I would hope that that's not the case. I mean, again, the Chief of Police Association report documented some of the many problems that non-law enforcement would have to deal with, as well as the unfunded mandates for police departments and trying to enforce all of these new provisions. So I would hope that there's still enough in there. I mean, frankly, what we saw in New Mexico when Governor Lujan Grisham had her unconstitutional order, you can't carry in Albuquerque or Bernalillo County anymore. We saw the sheriff of Bernalillo County, we saw the police chief in Albuquerque, the district attorney in Bernalillo County, ultimately the attorney general of New Mexico, all say, hey, you know what? We're not enforcing this. And I'd like to think that the same thing is going to happen in Massachusetts. Maybe not the attorney general. I'm not
Right.
I'm not delusional. Okay. And probably not the Suffolk County DA, but it does seem to me like they have kind of stirred up a hornet's nest with this legislation, and people are on guard. They're paying attention now in a way that maybe they weren't, 6 months ago.
Oh, sure. I mean, look, we have a lot of closet gun owners and people that don't want to speak out about things. And I even talked with some of the people yesterday that they said, oh, we wanted to come. I mean, they came up with a list of excuses, and it's the whole, why are they doing it on a Wednesday? And the answer to that is that we're doing it on Wednesday because they're in session. We can't go talk to them on Saturdays when they're not there. And then it turns into, well, I don't want to put a sign in my yard because I don't want my neighbors to know that I own guns. Okay, well, you got to do something. You've got to write. If you're not going to put a sign out, you've got to write to these people. If you're not going to write to them, you need to go to the rallies. You need to donate. You need to do things to back this, so that when this does get to some sort of a court case, then there's people and funds that are able to fight this.
Yeah, absolutely. And you were there in Phoenix for the Gun Rights Policy Conference, and I think you were there when I talked at AmCon on Friday night, because I was sad that our internet connection didn't allow you to ask me a smart ass question afterwards. But I talked about that speech that Charlton Heston gave at Harvard Law. I think it was 1999, where he talked about this being a civil rights fight and said, listen, as gun owners, you will have to face some discomfort at times. I mean, look at the civil rights activists of the 1950s. Now, we don't have to face police dogs. We don't have to face fire hoses, right? Mm-hmm. But you do need to be willing to stiffen your spine a little bit and let your neighbors know that you're a gun owner and you're a Second Amendment supporter, that you're standing up for the exercise of this civil right. And I would like to think, I mean, look, this is the time. We can't, you can't say, oh, I'm going to get off the couch a year from now or 2 years from now. It will be too late in Massachusetts. Yes, kick in those monies to, Gun Owners Action League or Commonwealth 2A or all of the groups that are going to be filing lawsuits after whatever passes, because I'm assuming that something is going to pass. But this is not a time to be silent. So thank you for gently prodding and nudging those reluctant gun owners that, it is the time for you to actually start using your voice here.
Yeah, it really is. I've got one of my good friends that I get to get together with and have dinner with. She's got a gun license. She's got a gun. She's only has one handgun. And I told her, I said, look, you need to write to your politicians about this because they want to put serial numbers on magazines, and then they want you to register the magazines you have. And she says, do I get grandfathered in? And I said, nope, you do not. So if you're not paying attention to this, and then you don't do this nonsense, if the nonsense goes through, you're going to become a criminal. You're going to become a felon by doing nothing, by not putting a serial number on a magazine that you currently have. And trying to find an analogy for this. To me, it's like taking your car and putting on a different VIN number. Like the magazines don't come with serial numbers,
right?
And if you put one on there and then say, well, this is the serial number for this one. How do you know that you don't have the same serial number as someone else does? But you're not in the business of putting serial numbers on things. And then if you do put the serial number on it, could that be somehow defacing it or changing it? Or are they not going to hold some sort of a warranty on this? Or could you be accused of manufacturing a firearm because you're putting a serial number. I mean, this is how ludicrous some of this stuff could be.
Yeah, no, you're right. I suggest everybody use the code FUHD4420 as your serial number for your magazines. That would be my suggestion, by the way.
I dig it. I dig it.
The other thing that I think we need to be paying attention to, when I talked to Jim Wallace a couple of weeks ago, and I asked him, well, what's the status? He still thinks that both the House and the Senate are going to try to do something by the end of the year. Okay, well, it's almost October, right? So we're running into that same situation that we ran into back in the summer when they introduced this bill. We're going to get it as quickly as possible. We want to ram it through. We're going to be dealing with a time crunch. If they really do want to get something done by the end of December, again, are we going to have time to look at this bill? Are we going to have time to digest everything that comes out of the House and the Senate here? And are they going to just try to ramrod this through the legislature once again?
It's probably going to be very Pelosi, where they say we'll have to just sign it to see what's in it. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I mean, when it's done with the smoke and mirrors, and it's done quickly, and just let's sign it, let's pass it when no one's looking, let's do it in the on a weekend when everyone goes away. This is the sham that all of this is. It's all baloney.
Malarkey, as that guy from Delaware likes to say. Yeah,
it's a bunch of malarkey.
It's a wicked pissa, as we would, right? That's what it is, and it really is a wicked pissa. It really is.
Oh my God.
So listen, I hope that folks follow your advice. If you are in Massachusetts and you're listening right now, contact your state representative, contact your state senator, tell them your experience. Don't write some form email, personalize this a little bit. Tell them how these laws would impact you. Will it make a difference? Depending on who your lawmaker is, maybe not. But gun owners, you all have already done something that I didn't expect to see in Massachusetts. You derailed that initial push over 4420. So people need to have hope. They need to have, a little bit of faith right now that their efforts will pay off, because it happened a few months ago. And I do believe that there is a chance to, if not derail these gun control bills completely, at least get them to a point where the Second Amendment isn't obliterated. There's still going to be constitutional challenges. There's still going to be issues. I know there's still going to be lawsuits, but now is the time to stand up, speak out, and fight for your rights.
Absolutely. This stuff is not going anywhere. It's going to come back, and it's going to look like something else. And people will say, what happened to 4420? Well, it's now got a different number. Maybe it's going to have a different name to it. But we still need to get whatever this is that they want to do. We have to keep the energy and the momentum going. And people have come out that are not gun owners that said, this is, we're not anti-gun, but this is a little bit too far. You can't make people go through all of the training requirements, and it's going to cost more money. It's going to cost more time to have more training, and then turn around and say you can't carry anywhere. Well, that defeats the purpose of showing some sort of proficiency and doing an active shooter course, and then saying, okay, you got an active shooter course, but you can't carry anywhere. Well, then what did I do this for? Why did I spend the time and the money to do this? And if they want us to not do that, so that we can't carry anywhere, or so we won't carry anywhere because we're not going to be allowed to, this is baloney. It's a bunch of malarkey.
It absolutely is. And when we get the new legislation, or the revamped legislation from the House, I want to have you back on. I want to go through some of the particulars, because, as a gun owner and a firearms instructor in Massachusetts, I think you're in a unique position to talk about the impact that these provisions would have. But in the meantime, Charlie, thank you so much for carving out a few minutes from your busy day to talk with us. It's always good to see you, and I hope I get to see you in person again in about a month or so.
In about a month. I want to say congratulations on the Journalist of the Year at the Gun Rights Policy Conference. That's, like I said, you are the gold standard that everyone else tries to be like. So,
well,
congrats on that.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate the kind words, Charlie, and the check is in the mail. So thank you very much. Hey, man, enjoy the rest of your day. We'll talk again very soon.
Thanks.
Charlie Cook with the Riding Shotgun with Charlie joining us here on Bearing Arms Cam and Company. Well, my thanks to Charlie for joining us on the program. And my thanks as well to all of the gun owners who, rearranged their schedule, took time out of their day, made the effort to get to Boston. I know it's not easy holding a midweek rally, but the hundreds of folks who showed up in attendance, thank you for doing that, for speaking up, for standing up, for, again, making those sacrifices to be there for that rally. We're going to be talking, by the way, more about what's going on in Massachusetts next week. Jim Wallace of the Gun Owners Action League will join us on the program. Right now, let's turn our attention to today's Armed Citizen story, our good deed of the day, and our recidivist report. Actually, before we get to that, Biden's America, it is crushing as you've got companies laying off tens of thousands of workers, one after the other. Americans working two jobs just to get by. Inflation pushing hardworking families to the brink. Again, just check out your receipt the next time you go to the grocery store. And a digital dollar could be coming down the pipeline to completely destroy our way of life. Truth is, you need a plan. You know it, and I know it. And that is why you should call Goldco. So you can diversify your savings and investments with gold and silver before things get worse. They're a 6-time Inc. 5000 winner, 2022 Company of the Year, with thousands of 5-star reviews. And they've helped people like you and me place over $1 billion in gold and silver. They're offering up to $10,000 in free silver while supplies last. And if you call them today, qualified callers will get a free Ronald Reagan half-ounce silver coin. So don't wait. Call Goldco at 855-412-3806 today. That's 855-412-3806. All right, now let's get to today's Armed Citizen story, our good deed of the day, and our recidivist report. We will start there. One of Baltimore's, it's sad because Baltimore may very well see fewer than 300 homicides for the first time since 2015. That is the good news. The bad news is that violent crime and homicide still unconscionably high in Baltimore, Maryland. And you may have seen the story of this 26-year-old tech CEO who was murdered in Baltimore. Well, police have made an arrest. And as it turns out, the suspect not only linked to an earlier arson and rape just a couple of weeks ago, but based on what I'm reading, this guy should not have been out on the street, should have been behind bars. 32-year-old Jason Billingsley, taken into custody, charged with first-degree murder, assault, reckless endangerment, and other charges after police accused him of killing Pavel Lepere, the founder and CEO of EcoMap Technologies. Now, according to WBAL, Billingsley was released from prison in October of 2022, not on parole. The Maryland Department of Public Safety and Corrections says that he was placed on mandatory supervision release. That release included good time credits. He was placed on the sex offender registry, was recently listed as non-compliant, according to WBAL. He was supposed to re-register this month as directed, but he didn't. Now, as it turns out, back in 2015, Billingsley pleaded guilty to a sexual offense that happened in 2013. Court document said the victim claimed that Jason Billingsley told her he wanted to have sex with her. He then punched her in the face, placed his hands around her neck, told her she was going to do what he said or he was going to shoot her. This was, again, sexual assault. A judge sentenced Billingsley to 30 years in prison in 2015. But he turned around and suspended 14 years of that sentence. So in 2015, Billingsley ultimately received a 16-year sentence for first-degree sex offense, assault, and false imprisonment. He had previously been charged with beating and assaulting an ex-girlfriend, pleaded guilty to that charge in 2011. 2009, he received a suspended 5-year sentence for assault and was put on 2 years of probation. But again, even if half of that 30-year sentence had been suspended by the judge, and Billingsley was supposed to serve 16 years. That was 8 years ago. And so again, basically for every day behind bars that Billingsley didn't commit another serious offense, he got a day knocked off of his sentence. And so a 30-year sentence turned into 16 years, turned into 8 years, and Billingsley was back out on the streets when Lepere was murdered earlier this week. Maryland lawmakers, the Democrats in charge anyway, have got no problem going after lawful gun owners, right? We just saw the carry killer legislation that was approved. It's now the subject of a lawsuit in federal court. And they have rejected, Maryland Democrats have, rejected calls to fix the criminal justice system, to, apply some actual consequences to violent crimes, to provide truth in sentencing, things of that nature. They've resisted. They've actually gone in the other direction. And sadly, stories like this are the result. Now, today's armed citizen story, Midwest City, Oklahoma, where police say a man was shot by his estranged wife's boyfriend at a home where the man was not supposed to be. Justin Breeden's a neighbor. He says, I thought it was crazy. I couldn't believe it. Officers called out to the scene near Reno Avenue and Midwest Boulevard around 11:45 Wednesday morning. Breeden says it's generally pretty quiet in the neighborhood, but according to an affidavit filed by Midwest City Police, the homeowner heard a noise there Wednesday morning, went to investigate. When he went into the hallway of his home, he found a stranger, well, at least a stranger to him. That man, now identified as 34-year-old Mauricio De La Rosa, began shouting at the homeowner, then moving towards him. Justin Breeden says, my neighborhood's quiet. My neighbors are quiet. Nothing like this ever happens around here. It was a shock. Homeowner went back to his bedroom, grabbed his gun. When De La Rosa opened the door to that bedroom, that is when the homeowner shot him in the chest. De La Rosa then ran from the home, collapsed nearby. Police took him into custody and transported him to the local hospital there in Midwest City. Homeowner's girlfriend identified De La Rosa as her estranged husband. She told officers that De La Rosa only knew she was seeing somebody, but she hadn't given him any personal details. The homeowner and the woman said that De La Rosa should not have known the address. He had not met the boyfriend before. She also told authorities that he'd been calling her repeatedly, but she hadn't answered. And according to, I believe this is a KFOR TV in Oklahoma City, when officers looked at her phone, they found over 170 calls from De La Rosa to her between 12:30 Tuesday afternoon and, again, roughly, 11:30 Wednesday morning. De La Rosa is still in the hospital recovering from his injuries. He's also charged with first-degree burglary as well as stalking. And we'll keep our eyes on this situation, see if there are any more details. But I am so glad and so grateful that this homeowner was prepared to protect himself when this angry stranger, to him anyway, showed up in his home and threatened him harm. Now, finally, today's good deed of the day. In the right place, at the right time, willing and able to do the right thing. A bus driver and two students in Alabama who helped save the life of an elderly man who could have burned to death. And these are the heroes in question. Joshua Ledlow, who's a senior, Chris Landers, who drives a bus, and Riley Reed, a freshman in White Oak, Alabama. Chris Landers had been driving her bus route in Colbert County for more than 10 years, according to the Times Daily, but had never encountered what she and these students ran across on September 20th. Landers was serving as a substitute driver for the school system that day. A lot of school districts are having real trouble retaining and finding bus drivers right now. And she had just dropped off some kids early that Wednesday afternoon. So as they head up a little hill, she sees black smoke coming from a home. And then she saw flames that were licking the area of the carport in the eastern side of the house. And underneath that carport, she saw a man in his motorized wheelchair. She said, I immediately stopped the bus. I tried to call 911, and then I saw him in the scooter, and he couldn't get any further because of the debris. She said, I couldn't get a signal on my phone. And so I turned and I asked one of the high school kids to call 911. I opened the door to the bus, and I ran towards the house. 83-year-old Russell Marler is the individual who was in danger. He leaned forward. He actually fell to the ground. She said the heat felt like an oven. As soon as I got off the bus, I ran up to him and I pulled on his hand, but he's a bigger guy than I am, and I couldn't pull him very far. So Landers looks over her shoulder to ask for help, and she sees Riley Reed and Joshua Ledlow, who are already there. They're already off the bus. Ledlow told the Times Daily, we were sitting in the back of the bus, and we saw the smoke and then the fire, and we got off the bus to help. He said it was just a reaction. I pulled on his left arm, Riley pulled on his right arm to get him out into the yard. Riley Reed says he and Ledlow first attempted to pull Marler's arms, but his burned skin actually just peeled away. So they grabbed his wrists and began pulling him to the middle of the yard to safety. Riley Reed says, the Lord is working through me. I was his helper that day. You can be as calm as you want when you know the Lord's there to protect you. So after this elderly man was pulled to safety, Landers and Reed and Ledlow returned to the bus. Times Daily reports they were welcomed with a round of applause from the other kids there. Riley Reed says, I didn't do anything. I was just there to help. I wish that I knew we weren't so on unlimited time so we could pull him further away from the house. Well, they pulled him far enough. Marlowe's life was saved. He is currently at the UAB Medical Center. He's gone through the first of what the Times Daily reports will be at least 3 surgeries, and he may be in the hospital for a month, but he is alive. He is breathing, again, because of the quick thinking and the fast actions of a high school senior, high school freshman, and a substitute bus driver, Joshua Ledlow, Chris Landers, Riley Reed. We thank you for your very, very good deed. Now, that is all the time we've got for you on this edition of Bearing Arms Cam & Company. I do want to thank you for being a part of the program, as always. Just a programming note, we will not have a show on Monday, but I will be back on Tuesday of next week, and we'll be updating bearingarms.com throughout the day. Just have a little bit of a scheduling conflict with the show on Monday. So, full schedule at bearingarms.com. Cam & Company returns next Tuesday. Looking forward to being with you. In the meantime, don't forget to check out the website. Make sure you're staying up to date on all of the latest 2A news and information from all across the nation. And if you like what you see, I would encourage you to become a VIP or VIP Gold member. Just go to bearingarms.com/subscribe. Use the promo code GUNRIGHTS, and you can get a significant savings on your VIP membership. We're going to give you exclusive content you won't find anywhere else because your support really matters, and it truly does make a difference. So thank you again for your support. All right, until we talk again, be well, be safe, and be free.